I let another artist pick my supplies, and I picked hers. Hello and welcome back to Jenna Gets Creative, or simply welcome. This is a collaboration with Darkest Raven Design, so welcome and thank you new viewers and subscribers. And if you're seeing my video first, please don't forget to go check out Darkest Raven Designs after this. We decided to do a 5-color watercolor challenge, but the catch is we traded photos of our watercolor collections and let the other artist choose which 5 colors we had to use and which prompt to stick to. The colors Darkest Raven Designs picked for me were sap green and Prussian blue from my Kinkade palette, light oxide red from Van Gogh by Royal Talens, and lemon yellow hue and Alizarin crimson from my Winsor Cotman palette. The prompt she gave me was make an improvement on my favorite animal. If you're curious which colors I picked for her and which prompt I sent along, you'll have to watch her video. I've seen the result and I love it. These were definitely interesting colors to try to use together. At a glance, I thought it would be really simple because it's the primaries, a secondary, and a nice medium brown, but on closer inspection I knew I was going to have a challenge if I wanted to do much mixing. The blue, green, and yellow are all cool tones, which means those will mix nicely together, but the red and brown are warm. If you've ever tried to mix secondaries from primaries that weren't either all warm or all cool tones, you'll know it's easy to accidentally mix mud. This red and blue makes a passable cool purple, but the red and yellow don't make the nicest orange. The palette they come from also has a warm yellow, cadmium yellow hue, so when I paint with just that palette and need an orange, that's the yellow I use. So I decided to go with a storybook illustration style rather than trying to mix a bunch of different shades and go for realism. The prompt has me going into the realm of fantasy anyway, right? Before I explain my illustration and the story behind it, I'd like to introduce myself and the channel to the new viewers coming over. My name is Jenna, as you might have guessed, and I upload art content here on YouTube at least twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's usually traditional mediums on paper or canvas rather than crafts or digital, but I do dabble in both of those as well. I love using my art and my channel to do art product reviews, provide tutorials on topics my audience requests, review books, movies, and shows with fan art time lapses, and sometimes even talk about history topics or current events that I find interesting or important. The visuals are always art, I just change up the talking points. I'm also an aspiring author, so sometimes I'll draw my characters and talk about those stories. I dabble in many mediums, but my favorites are alcohol markers, watercolor, and colored pencil. Our creed here on the channel is live life creatively, and my goal is to inspire and teach you to do that, so if that sounds interesting to you, I'd love it if you would subscribe and join me on this journey. I'm actually planning to hold a giveaway once I'm qualified for the YouTube Partner Program, and I'm getting close. The requirements to apply are 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours total over the last 12 months. My giveaway will be open to all of my channel subscribers age 14 and up, no matter where you are in the world, as long as you're able to receive a package mailed from Canada. The giveaway prize will include an assortment of new and like-new tested once art supplies, as well as a small original artwork. If you'd like to see that giveaway happen as soon as possible, then keep watching to help me with those watch hours, and subscribe to be eligible. Alright, so the illustration. The prompt was to improve my favorite animal, and my favorite animal is the horse. When I was a little kid, I used to wish and ask for a robot horse. Sorry, a robotical horse. Apparently, that's how I thought the word was said. This robot horse would be just like a real horse, so I could ride it to school and go on weekend trail rides, but since it wasn't actually alive, I could keep it in the garage. It wouldn't matter that our property wasn't zoned as farmland, making horses illegal to keep there because it wasn't a live horse. There would also be pretty much no upkeep because it's a robot. Done for the day, turn it off. No feeding requirements. No piles of horse poop. I seriously asked for this multiple years in a row at Christmas time. I wonder if that was the craziest thing those shopping mall Santas ever heard on those days. Then I went through a phase where I chose to believe, not because I thought it was possible, but because I thought it was fun, that all my toys did indeed come to life and have complex lives whenever humans weren't looking. This was pre-Toy Story. I think I was inspired by the 80s film Where the Toys Come From. Either way, like any little girl obsessed with horses, I had horse toys, and at some point I was choosing to believe that they could come to life. Naturally, the next step was to wish that I could not only witness my toy horses coming to life, but have the ability to make them life-size at will. I had a bunch of tiny plastic horses from the Grand Champions toy line, and I figured if they could come to life and become life-size whenever I wanted, how perfect would that be? A pocket-sized horse that becomes a real horse when I need it, then goes back in my pocket when I don't. How cool would that be? My favorite of these tiny plastic horses was a chestnut mare named Duchess, and I believe the set she came in was meant to be a family of Morgans, but honestly, she looked like a Welsh to me. So for this illustration, I've drawn a robotic horse inspired by Carousel Horse in armoured designs, and colored some parts to look like that little chestnut mare toy. The use of yellow may not be obvious if you weren't paying really close attention at the beginning, because it's an underlayer to the brown parts and blended into a glaze over the initial green of the background. I did bring it back at the very end to try to rub some highlights into the browns, but I'm undecided on how successful that was. You might think, based on all of that my ideal horse would be a chestnut mare on the small side, and I can see why, but oddly enough, that's not the case at all. I don't know why my favorite horse toy was a little chestnut mare. I've always loved stock breeds, particularly the American quarter horse, and I like my horses on the bigger side. My ideal horse would be a quarter horse gelding, at least 15 hands, with a rich golden buckskin coat. Maybe one with some recent thoroughbred bloodlines for size and speed. And if I couldn't have that, Frisian, Clydesdale, Spanish pureblood, something big, dark, and very hairy. If you're a horse lover, I'd love to hear what your ideal horse would be. When I was done with painting, I was actually torn about whether or not I wanted to add line art, but ultimately I decided that since we did agree we could add a liner pen, and since I was trying to lean into an illustrative style, line work was the best option. I decided to use my hard-nibbed Tombow Fudenosuke pen because it allows for some amount of variation in line weight, but it's not very pliable, which I find easier to control. It was this, or pick a very small gauge fine liner and build up parts that I wanted heavier. This is definitely a faster way to do that. I need to remember to use my plastic nibbed pens like the Fudenosukes and Micron PN more often. If you were to make improvements on your favorite animal, what would they be? Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't seen Darkest Raven Designs video yet, definitely go check her out now. I'll have her video linked everywhere. She's painting with 5 colors I picked from her collection, and the prompt I gave her was quite open-ended. If you have seen hers and you're looking for something else to watch, I've got some suggestions up on the left side of the screen now. I upload art content twice a week at minimum, every Tuesday and Thursday, and if you like living life creatively, whatever that means to you, I'd love to have you along for the ride. Bye guys!